Hi there. Today I'm talking about the name of the year personal names category for the years 2008 to 2023. If you don't know, here in North America, we have the American Dialect Society and the American Names Society. Every year since 1990, the American Dialect Society has designated Word of the Year, and the American Name Society has designated Name of the Year. Today, we're just looking at the personal name category, also known as anthroponyms or names of people. The newest 2023 personal name of the year was chosen Swiftie. Why did the American Name Society choose Swiftie as the 2023 personal name of the year? Well, one, it builds on a trend of the diminutive ending of E being used in pop culture, i.e., Trekkies. However, unlike many pop culture neologisms, Swiftie has shown a lot of longevity since first being attested in the year 2010. Also, Swiftie is an example of a personal name which has become now a brand name since Taylor Swift trademarked it. Swiftie is also part of this new and emerging phenomenon of groups of fans taking it upon themselves to kind of represent or battle on behalf of their idol in the real world and the online space. So this is a personal name that is really emblematic and reflective of something important that is happening at our time in history. The 2022 personal name of the year was Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, a personal name isn't just chosen for this because it is an important name this year. Personal names are chosen as name of the year also because the name itself is interesting. Of course, it is lost on no one that Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, his name is the Ukrainian version of the name of his main rival, Vladimir Putin. This is a case of nomen est omen. This name means ruler of the world, ruler of peace, and bright and famous. Also, the act of spelling Volodymyr the way that it is spelled, the Ukrainian way, instead of the Russian way, in and of itself is meaningful to the Ukrainian people. It's an act of resistance because Russia has sporadically tried to suppress the Ukrainian language itself several times without very much success. The 2021 personal name of the year was Karen. In linguistics, the process by which an inoffensive word, such as a popular woman's name, becomes a pejorative is known as pejoration. And indeed, Karen is an incredibly popular name. It was ranked third in the year 1965. So when we picture a Karen in our minds, it's probably someone who's now going on 60. The concept of a Karen and Karen behavior is nothing new. In the USA antebellum era, they were called Miss Anne, and in the 1990s, they were called Becky's. Karen is also a remarkably international name. It's a popular first name in Africa, East Asia, Armenia, and Iran. And Karen is interesting because this is another example of where we see a name disappearing from the popular lexicon once it becomes a pejorative. The 2020 personal name of the year was George Floyd. And once again, these names aren't just chosen because this is an important person who did something, or in this case, died this year. It's because the name itself is important. When I'm talking about the importance of these names, I'm not necessarily explaining the reasons why the American Names Society chose them for name of the year, because I don't always have access to that information, but I'm talking about what I think is important and interesting about these names. So when we hear the name George Floyd, it isn't a name that we would automatically associate with Black America in this day and age, but actually, in the past, George was at one point a racial slur for Black men. Also, within the Black Lives Matter movement, the prominence of victims' names was part of the movement. Say their names was this phrase coined to bring attention to the victims as opposed to the perpetrators of the system. The 2019 personal name of the year was Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg. I actually don't know how to pronounce this name correctly, but I do know that it is massively mispronounced all over the world, which is one of the reasons why it is an interesting name. Her full name is Greta Tintin Eleonora Ehrenmann Thunberg, and this is an example of something that was a personal name that became so much more than a personal name. This went from being the name of a child to the Greta effect. And as I mentioned before, people all over the world struggled to pronounce this name. This name has become so synonymous with climate activism that actually a young climate activist from India had to plead with the foreign press to start using her name and not to refer to her as the Greta of India. The 2019 personal name of the year was Jamal Khashoggi. Now, in North America, people have historically seen Arabic names as threatening. And Jamal is a name that most Americans would have associated with African Americans. However, the alliterative appeal of justice for Jamal as a rallying cry could not be denied. The 2017 personal name of the year was Maria, the name of a destructive hurricane. This hurricane was so destructive that actually the World Meteorological Organization decided to retire the name Maria after this Maria. It will never again be used to name an Atlantic hurricane, and it was replaced with Margot. Storm names are a subject of speculation and unfortunately rumor. Contrary to popular opinion, storms with female names are not more deadly because people underestimate them. How storms are named has been a subject of discourse in the past. Up until 1979, all US tropical systems had female names, and the fight to change it wasn't particularly easy. In 2016, the American Name Society chose Drumpf. Once again, I don't know why exactly they chose Drumpf, but I would like to talk about why I think this was a great choice. When an illegal immigrant from Bremen, Bavaria, landed in New York in 1885, he, like many Americans, underwent a name change. A family that was once the Drumpfs became the Trumps. I think this is fantastic. My own ancestor and namesake, who had been Rose Rabinovich in the Jewish exclusion zone of the Russian Empire, also underwent a name change. She became Rose Trapskin in an area of the interior plateau of the United States, which would later become the Colville Indian Reservation. I love the choice of Drumpf because it is a choice that represents the way in which immigrants who come to the United States willingly change their names to fit into the society, to find a place in the communities that they joined. And I think it's a beautiful thing. This is not only a great name, but it's a great American name. It is time to stop slandering Ellis Island immigration officials. There is a longstanding rumor that many immigrants were intentionally or accidentally renamed at Ellis Island. This is not true. If there was an error made in transcribing their names, it was most likely made at the point of departure. Ellis Island immigration officials were actually super capable. Many of them were trilingual. And in fact, many immigrants, like my own family, chose to rename themselves in order to better integrate into the communities and the society that they were joining. The 2015 personal name of the year was Caitlyn Jenner. Now, obviously, Caitlyn Jenner is a big celebrity, but I think what's important about this is when Caitlyn Jenner debuted herself to the world, She did it in a way that forefronted her name. She didn't forefront her transition. She didn't forefront her relationships. She forefronted her name as the way to debut herself to the world in Call Me Caitlin and I Am Kate. The 2014 personal name of the year was Malala. A beautiful name, euphonic, but actually means sad or grieved, which once again, nomen est omen, is a painful reminder of the Nobel laureate's suffering. She was actually named after another Malala, who was an Afghan heroine who supposedly led a victory against the British in 1880. This is a very female name. We associate the letter with feminine names, and Malala is a very feminine sounding name, which fits because she's an activist for women and girls. The 2013 personal name of the year was Francis. Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, is the first pope born in the Americas and the first in the Southern Hemisphere. Francis and his name, Francis, represent a rebrand for Catholicism in the new millennium, a new image of humility, cooperation, and tolerance. In his first audience, he explained that he chose to name himself after Francis of Assisi, the poor man, to present this new vision of a poor church and a church for the poor. Not only is he the first pope named Francis, it's also the first time in over 1,000 years that the pope has a new name that wasn't used by a predecessor. So this is definitely the most historic personal name on this list. The 2012 personal name of the year was also Malala. You might ask, why twice? Well, if I had to guess, I would say that because this name became important twice for two pretty different reasons. Malala Yousafzai first became an icon when she was shot by the Taliban for advocating secular education in Pakistan. And then she became a new kind of icon as a Nobel laureate. First, this was an important name of an important person. And then it was the name of a person that became the name of a movement. And very similar to the case with Caitlyn Jenner, this is a movement and a campaign which has forefronted Malala's name as a representation of everything she stands for. The 2011 personal name of the year was Muammar Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi was born on an unknown date to illiterate Bedouins in the 1930s or 1940s. Ironically, his name means long-lived or long life, but he was killed in 2011 by NATO-backed rebels. Gaddafi himself appreciated the power of a name, and the name of Libya was changed several times during his tenure as leader. What's interesting to this about me, as there's no official record of his birth, so there's really no official spelling of his name. And throughout his long and controversial reign, people all over the world spelled his name in a variety of different ways. The 2010 personal name of the year was Lady Gaga. This originally came from a song by Queen, Radio Gaga. This name is interesting as a personal name because someone else tried to take credit for her. A former producer sued her, claiming that he had invented her name, trying to get a cut of her success. Another interesting thing about Lady Gaga is that she uses this name across the board. When the rapper Childish Gambino is accepting an award for directing a TV show, he uses the name Donald Glover. He accepts that name as Donald Glover. But when Lady Gaga is accepting an award for her acting work, she stays Lady Gaga. So this is not only her name as a singer, this is her name as a persona. The 2009 personal name of the year was Chelsea Burnett Sully Sullenberger. You may or may not know that girls with masculine names like Ash or Jessie are massively advantaged in pretty much every conceivable way, but men with feminine sounding names do not share in a similar benefit. So it's no surprise that this hero chose to use a nickname instead of his feminine sounding first name, Chelsea. Chelsea, by the way, Old English toponym turned anthroponym. His name, similar to Malala, an idea that has come to represent a concept, his name Sully has come to represent this kind of one-word phrase for coolness in a crisis. The 2008 personal name of the year, which was actually the first personal name of the year, was Barack Hussein Obama. Obama's father was born into Kenya's Luo tribe. Most Luo don't inherit a family name. They are bestowed one at birth that represents the circumstances of their birth or the circumstances of their family's life. Within the Luo, inherited family names such as Obama, which means bent or limping, are actually very rare. So it's a special name. Much controversy was spawned over Obama's middle name. Hussein, political opponents tried to portray him as a closet Muslim with ties to terrorists. Throughout the history of the American electoral process, journalists and muckrakers have loved using these short, quick, punchy nicknames to refer to presidents. But in the case of Obama, they did the absolute exact opposite thing. They reveled in referring to him as Barack Hussein Obama, which is unprecedented. What other president was ever referred to by their full name so often in the press? All right, that was Name of the Year, Personal Names, 2008 to 2022. If you're interested in more content like this, feel free to subscribe.